All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Boomer Pod podcast, where we interview movie and TV celebrities that are of the baby boomer generation. Our guest today is another renowned stunt actor and coordinator, Mr. Ken Kirzinger. Welcome, Ken.
Thanks, Larry. Nice to see you again.
And thank you for being with us today on the Boomer Pod.
It's good to be here.
Ken, let's talk about your career in the stunt world. How did you get started?
Yeah, well, I up until I was about 4 or 5 years old, I think I wanted to be Jacques Cousteau, and then later on, in life, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I read an article when I was 12 about Hal Needham, this famous stuntman from LA, and I think at 12 years old, I decided that's what I wanted to be, and kind of tucked it away in the back of my head. And fast forward to university, I was playing college football and I injured my knee, and I thought, well, I'm going to take a year off university. It's a good time to go down to Los Angeles and look into becoming a stuntman. And turns out my sister was living in LA and with raising her family there, and her next door neighbor was the property master on the old TV series Fall Guy.
Wow.
And he gave me the phone number of one of the stunt guys on the show, and he in turn gave me the phone number of a stunt guy he knew in Vancouver, and I came back and made a call, and wasn't long after that I was working on my first movie, Superman 3.
That's fantastic. Now, I understand that you're friends with one of our previous guests, the Halloween Resurrection star who played Michael Myers, Brad Loree.
That's right, Brad. Bad Brad and I go way back.
Tell us about that.
Well, Brad and I met through a mutual friend, another stuntman, and Brad was kind of like his name was Tony Morelli, and he was a little like Tony's younger brother, and that's the way Tony treated him. And he brought him out to set one day to do a stunt or something easy, and that's when I met Brad, and we got to talking, and Brad was going to go back and work on the oil fields. And I kind of talked him into staying and becoming a stuntman. And I said, give it a try. You can always go back to the oil fields. And so he stuck around and started training and getting more work, and made himself a very nice career as a stuntman.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, tell us about Freddy versus Jason, where we were playing the part of Jason Voorhees, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's this year is actually, I guess, the 20th anniversary of Freddy versus Jason. I had worked on a previous Friday the 13th movie, number 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I was the stunt coordinator, and I was the stunt double for Jason. And years later, they roll into town to shoot Freddy versus Jason, and I get called up to interview for the stunt coordinating job, and met with the producer, the line producer, and he wasn't really paying attention to what I was saying. He knew I had worked on another Friday the 13th. He liked that. And then he asked me, well, would you audition to play Jason? And I said, well, what about the other guy, Kane Hodder? He had played him 4 times before that, I think. And he said, well, we just wanted to go a different way. Would you like to audition for it? And so I did. It was a kind of a corny audition. It was a close up on my eyes, wearing a really cheap mask they had me reacting with my eyes to the opening scene of the movie where the girl's swimming in the lake. And then they had me walk around the room, and that was the audition. And based on that, I met with Ronnie Yu, and I got the job.
Could all auditions be that easy?
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Why horror?
Horror was something I enjoyed growing up, but honestly, it's just the way the direction my career went, because I was a big guy. I got cast as the Sasquatch on an episode of MacGyver, and I got cast as a robot in The Outer Limits, and cast as a zombie, or just anything big and intimidating, a werewolf. I seem to get those roles. So playing, thugs and henchmen and monsters just sort of happens when you're this big.
And is that what happened with the Incredible Hulk?
Well, the Incredible Hulk was just I got hired on that to be one of the, we call them ND, nondescript stunt people, where there's lots of carnage going on and you need stunt people running in between, smashing cars and running from the monsters and diving over things. So I was just one of many stunt people that worked on that movie in Toronto. And it was a lot of fun to work on, though, because we had a lot of stunt people for the sequence we were doing. And anytime you get that many stunt people together, it's on location, leads to a lot of after work hijinks and fun. So it's great to be on location with that many stunt guys.
Well, now in our prep, you've asked to discuss some very interesting topics outside of the acting and stunt world.
Well, now you asked me, I didn't ask to, you asked me for topics. I said, okay, these are topics that are interesting. So they're interesting topics. I'm not,
Okay,
conspiracy theorist or anything like that. But some of these topics are pretty interesting, and you were asking for other things to talk about. So
well, I forget what I had for breakfast, so I forget who asked who, but let's dive right in.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on 9/11?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't think all the answers are out there. I don't think anybody knows exactly what all went on, and I honestly don't think it's exactly as as people have been told. And there are people involved with the investigations that will say the same thing, and new information is coming out all the time. It seems, trickles out here and there, the Saudis' involvement, particularly, and the families of 9/11 have been pressing to get information about how involved the Saudis were. That some of that information may never have come out if they weren't as persistent as they are. I don't think all the answers have been given yet on that. I don't know what's truth or what's what all the truth is or what all the fiction is, but certainly an interesting topic that I think will last as long as the JFK assassination.
And what do you think?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't say what I thought unless I had a definitive reason for thinking that. All I know is that with the new information that's come out, it's evident that we haven't, all the information wasn't given out in the very beginning. So I think it's something that would need more investigation, and you'd have to get a hold of all the paperwork that's available to figure out exactly what's going on. But all I'll say is that it's not as everybody has been told, and that's
Right.
evident by the new information that's coming out.
Right. And how about Jeffrey Epstein?
Oh yeah, well, Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, my thinking on it is that he just had connections to so many people that governments and big business would love to have connections with, and he was a bit of a honey trap. He would put people in compromising positions, or maybe just get them so relaxed they'd hand out more information than they should. That whole thing kind of smacks of something of subterfuge and spying and how spying has been used over the years. So ending himself in prison seems unlikely to me. So it's highly suspicious.
He doesn't seem like, or didn't seem like, the kind of person that would have committed suicide.
Yeah, I think there was a lot more people that would have wanted him dead than him. He was leading a pretty good lifestyle, and the jig was up, but he was in prison, but he certainly had a lot of money and influence, and we know how that can affect courts. So
Mhm.
for him to kill himself, I think that's a stretch.
Yeah, I do too. And JFK?
Well, JFK, I mean, again, I'm not an expert on the subject, but new information comes out about Oswald and his connections. I mean, if you were going to get somebody to kill the president, how hard would it be now to go out and find someone who's really militantly against the president and then encourage them and give them opportunities to commit a crime? And then, you could do all that without leaving any fingerprints on them. And so you're essentially using a person and motivating them to commit a murder. It's like going to somebody and telling them, I know your wife's screwing around, and this guy has a history of violence, and you go to him and say, hey, I think your wife is screwing around, will you hold my gun for me? And then the
Yeah.
guy goes off and kills the guy that's or he thinks is having an affair with his wife. It's manipulation, it's subterfuge, and all you have to do is not leave any fingerprints. But unfortunately, I mean, if you look, there are fingerprints on Oswald and his connections, who he saw, when he saw them, motive, means, opportunity. It was all there if you had somebody who was motivated by their political instincts to go out and do something like that.
Yeah. What's your take on God?
So I was raised Roman Catholic. You and I have talked about this before.
Right.
I was raised Roman Catholic, so we're taught from a very young age about God, but my parents were not super pushy about. We had to go to church on Sundays and observe religious holidays, but basically once we left the house, we were allowed to make up our own minds about things. And so I think for a while I looked at religion and I wasn't satisfied by it, and I didn't believe in anything, and just thought, oh, religion is just for the weak-minded, and people who need a crutch to get through life, because we're facing death, and it offers us a kind of a life preserver, so that was kind of depressing, not believing in anything. So then I started reading about quantum physics and how science and religion were coming so close together, and how our consciousness might be able to affect our realities, and so I started thinking that there was more to life than just existing for the amount of time we have, that maybe we have some influence on our reality. I mean, you've heard of the law of attraction?
Yes.
And in quantum physics, I think, and I can't go into all the details of it or whatever, but the things one of the things that I've seen mentioned is that every time we make a decision, it's like we create a new reality, where the person who made the yes decision goes this way, and the person who made the no decision goes that way, and it sort of creates this infinite set of realities. So if we can do that, if that's a possibility, then maybe we have more influence over our existence than we think. And I found that really interesting and kind of refreshing. And that at one point I started thinking, if instead of manifesting wealth or fame or why not try to manifest immortality for everybody? Why not try to manifest that we defeat the diseases of aging and cancer and heart disease, and wouldn't it be an interesting world if we could all live longer and maybe forever? Maybe there's a way to eventually put our consciousness into join with machines and be, in a sense, indestructible. So I find that thinking and investigating that or contemplating it, it's kind of reassuring in its own way. It's its own kind of religion. You have to have faith in that possibility.
That's amazing. That's amazing that you think this deeply about things. And how do you feel about the end? I mean, would you like to live forever?
I think I'd like the option. Every time you see a movie about people who look for immortality, there's always a bad ending, right? And it's always, the wrong thing to do. And maybe that's the test in life, is to have that faith. We're taught in religion to have faith. You have to have faith. Maybe that's the test in life, is that, the death is taught to us, that, since you're a small child, you learn about death and dying. you have to prepare for the end and live your life. Life is short. What changes would there be if we were all living longer? How much intelligence would be kept in this world if it wasn't taken away after 60, 70, 80, 90 years? All that education, all that life experience would make us better citizens, for our communities and to our family and friends. You'd learn so much if you lived longer. So and I look at science now, and honestly, there's people out there that think it's just around the corner. Um, uh, David Sinclair is very well known in the human longevity and now in age reversal field. And in January of this year, he announced that he had been able to manipulate the age of a mouse by I forget the technique now, but they were able to age a mouse and de-age a mouse, and essentially stop aging and reverse it. So if that's the first step, I mean, that doesn't make us immortal. That doesn't make us impervious to train wrecks or plane crashes or war and things like that. But it might motivate people not to go to war if they could live much longer. It might give people a much more bigger reason to treat this world better.
How's your health, Ken?
I'm a beat up old stuntman. I certainly have my aches and pains, but I have a lot of great memories, and I had so much fun doing what I did that I won't complain about it. It is what it is. You got these aches and pains. If I'd been a pro football player or whatever, I'd have the same thing, and I just really enjoyed what I did. So that makes it all worthwhile.
Well, I enjoy discussing world affairs. Let's talk about something else.
Sure.
How about the Russia-Ukrainian war? Do you know anything about that?
Well, I mean, I know a little bit, what I see on the news and stuff. I know that seems like such a waste. And it seems, that we should be beyond that in the 21st century. It's so, 1940s, 30s. I just can't believe it. And I can't believe that, the people of Russia would let this dictator bring us the whole world to such a place that we're at, where we have to start worrying about nukes and blowing up the world again. I thought we grew out of that, and but that it's the price of peace is what? Eternal vigilance. And we see these despots creeping up all over the world again. And if we've forgotten the past, we're doomed to repeat it. And so unfortunately, we're letting it happen ourselves by not voting. Simple thing like that. People don't vote, or they're manipulated by the media, or nowadays you've got all this fake AI. They can make anybody say anything. So it's confusion. People don't know what to believe. But I think you can look for your guiding lights, things like people who preach about fracturing society, about pulling us apart. That's a huge warning sign for me. You need to pull people together. You need to look for the similarities that we all have, and not become polarized. If you see somebody trying to fracture, pull people apart, they're not up to no good.
Yeah. Do you think it all hinges on Putin?
Oh, very much so. I think he called the shots on this from the very beginning, and it was a choice. It wasn't a need. There was no need to do what he did, other than I've heard some people suggest that he's getting on in years. I think he's in his late 60s now. His health may not be good, and he wants to leave a legacy. Well, he thought it was going to be easy to walk in there and claim back these places that had been part of Russia, or in the past, and it wasn't. It was a huge mistake, and that's unfortunately that's his legacy now, and there's no saving face over what he's done. This is, until he's gone, Russia and the Russian people are going to wear this. The rest of the world is looking at them going, "You're letting this happen." Yeah, it's just a very, very sad thing that I thought we had grown out of, as a world.
With so many Russian people supposedly against him, how do you think it is that the guy is still walking around?
That's just a tribute to his iron fist. He knows how to manipulate his people, and he knows, and the ones he can't manipulate, he'll make fear them. There's a reason why so many of his top people are suddenly falling out of their windows, or dying unexpectedly. And it's pretty obvious why. You go against me, you better kill me because I will kill you. And that's exactly how a mob boss works, right? If somebody comes
Yeah.
after him, he's going to make them an example so nobody else does.
You brought up another topic, which I find somewhat interesting, and that's human consciousness.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? What is your definition of that?
What is my definition of consciousness? I've never really written a definition down, but I would have to say it's that that entity within us that is separate somehow from the corporeal. It's the thoughts in our brain. It's something that has no, they say that the pineal gland is the physical connection to our spiritual consciousness. So consciousness isn't anything physical. It's what we're thinking. It's like radio waves that go out, and they're there. We know we know our thoughts are there, but am I seeing the world as it is? Does this computer really in front of me, or is that what's being programmed into my brain to think I see? So I don't know if anybody knows exactly what consciousness is, other than it's questioned, does consciousness exist after the body's gone? But possibly consciousness could be the most powerful thing in the universe. It could be capable of creating. People used to think that matter was created, Big Bang, and then out of that, all that matter came consciousness. And there's a school of thought out there that says that, no, consciousness probably came first and created the Big Bang, which would make consciousness the most powerful force in the universe. So it's something that we really need to study and see, how much our consciousness does affect our reality. It's a fascinating topic.
Can I quote you?
Sure.
You've been known to have said, "The truth is just the best information you have at the time." Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that. There's everything we think we know, seems to change over time, right? Because we gain more information. And it's like, interesting thing is Star Trek. I'm a big Star Trek fan. A lot of the things that were in Star Trek, the flip open phone, and were things that people saw on Star Trek and then manifested, created later. And physicists are even working on teleportation, and have had a success of teleporting an atom or whatever, a portion of an atom, to a different location. So does our imagination then affect our consciousness, and do we create what we have in our imagination? So again, consciousness, I think it's kind of a new religion in a way, a new study in a way of thinking that more and more people are getting interested in.
Well, there are no facts. there is no truth, just data to be manipulated. Now that's a quote by Don Henley, the founding member of the Eagles. What's your take on Don's belief?
Can you say it for me one more time?
There are no facts. There is no truth, just data to be manipulated.
Okay, so that sounds to me like sort of what I said, but that people use facts and data to manipulate people. So people will use a portion of the truth to bolster their argument, but because there is no full truth, they can't be right about it. I guess so it sounds to me like he's saying sort of what I said, but that people use that to manipulate other people.
And it's a terrible thing.
Is that how you read it? Is that how you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly how I read it.
Yeah.
And some of the most interesting people in the world that I've known have come to be great manipulators. And it's an interesting fact. Probably the greatest manipulators that I've found in the world are politicians.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that can be done about that, but we move on. We move on. Is there anything else that you'd like to add or pitch, Ken?
No. We've covered some pretty interesting topics, and I appreciate the conversation, Larry. It's really nice talking to you.
Well, I appreciate it too. Are you getting ready to get involved in any other productions?
I'm sort of in talks right now with regarding a script that I've written, and kind of got my fingers crossed that it all works out and the project gets made. So been working on that, and I'm also working on writing another script as we speak. So staying busy with the creative end of my life and giving my body a chance to look after itself.
What is the genre?
The one that is a horror that we're in talks with, and the other one is it's a comedy.
Really? From horror to comedy?
Yeah, well, it just
That's a stretch.
There's a lot of funny things in life.
That's true.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of funny things in horror too, if you look at it the right way.
Yeah.
Well, will you join us in the future to share any updates?
Sure, you give me a shout, and we'll find out together if this movie gets made or not.
That sounds wonderful. That sounds wonderful. Be well, my friend.
You as well. Take care.
Thank you so much for the conversation.
You're welcome. We'll talk again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.